Welcome to Does the Team Think? And now here's your chairman, McDonald Hobley.
And in this program, you'll hear a variety of answers to a variety of questions put by a variety of people. So let's meet the people who'll be doing most of the answering. We have Cardew Robinson, Tommy Trinder, Ted Ray, and the man who dreamed it all up, Professor Jimmy Edwards. And now, waiting to put her question, we have Mrs. Muriel Rabbits. Hello, Mrs. Rabbits. What's your question, please?
If each member of the team were guest of honour at a school prize-giving day, what would he say in his speech, and are there any new prizes he would like to introduce?
If each member of the team were guest of honour at a school prize-giving day, what would he say in his speech, and are there any new prizes he would like to introduce?
I was a guest of honour at a prize-giving once.
What did you say?
I just spoke my normal way. It sounded very refined.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to give the prizes away, did you?
That's right.
I did the... Do you mind not blowing your nose, Ted, while
I was only expressing an opinion, that's all.
I mean, if you're going to have to operate your hooter, operate it while I'm not speaking.
Ted Ray.
Well, the finest advice I think I can ever give to anyone is the advice that my father gave to me. And he said to me before I went out into the world with the Jason Montgomery Review...
He said, go west, young man, go west.
He said to me, my son, he said, and I said, yes, Daddy.
That was a surprise to you.
But he said to me, my boy, there are 3 things I must say to you, and remember these all your life, and they will always pull you through. The first thing is, if you earn £2, save 1. He said, never eat fish on a Monday. And whatever you do, never play snooker for money with a left-handed miner from South Wales. And if you remember those things, boys, you will never you'll be rich.
Well,
and happy.
let's consider them all, if we may. What was the first one?
If you earn £2, save 1.
Well, you never earned £2, have you?
Team, let's leave Ted's remarks for the moment. We may come back to them. Cardew Robinson.
Mrs. Rabbits, may I ask you, have you a large family?
No, I haven't, just 2.
I have been to a prize giving as, I wasn't the guest of honour, I was the father of one of the children.
What did you say?
Well, the awful one about, if you don't win, it's just as much fun trying, and it's all a lot of rubbish. Nobody believes it.
The first thing you must not do is talk down to the children like so many eminent
must
people.
be very tall children.
I mean, for example, you never hear an eminent general or an eminent politician go to a school without saying, of course, I was no good myself at school, which means to say, but look at me now.
How much longer are we going to listen to this ridiculous piffle?
Oh, I wasn't listening to it. I don't know what to...
Team, can you think of any new prizes that you would
Yes.
give? Jimmy,
Yes.
thought of
Well,
any
I
prizes?
thought what Mrs. Rabbits meant, I thought by the question was any things for which one would give prizes.
Yes.
I would give a prize for the boy with the most sense of humour, for example, in the school. The boy who played the most devastating practical jokes on the headmaster.
Or the boy with the largest moustache.
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, and I think initiative, too. I mean, to say most of the things they get prizes for are cut and dried and a bit old-fashioned.
Although you're talking about my pyjamas.
Cut and dried and a bit
They're
old-fashioned.
not even dry.
No, but I mean, you're talking about, I've got those on my lapels, those initiatives on my...
No, James, it's not worthy of you.
Mrs. Rabbits, why did you ask this particular question? Are you interested in speech days and school, what goes on in school?
Well, from what I can remember of my own school days, it was that the people who spoke to us were always elderly spinsters from the local council.
Well, you can't call me
They didn't
that.
speak on anything very interesting.
But you're wrong about that, Mrs. Rabbits, because it's through the eyes of a child these people looked old and spinsterish. You see, I've sat on these platforms at school days and thought, that's a smashing bit of work on the end of the line there. Because when you're older, you think differently, and then they're so grateful.
The important thing to do is to quote a little Latin to them, even the smallest school. I mean, kids come up to you and ask for their autograph, and they've got a stupid little schoolboy's cap on it, and on the front of it there's a little badge, and there's a little Latin embroidered on it, and they never even know what it means. Something like ars est salari artem, or something like
What
that.
does that mean,
Add
Jim?
some hard labour.
That's right. Add some hard labour, that's right. That means if you work hard, you've had it. But ars est salari artem means that celery can be made artistic.
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you, Mrs. Rabbits. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And now you're going to hear a question, team, from Mr. Bob Woolacott. Hello, Mr. Woolacott. What's your question, please?
Hello. Who is the most obnoxious person to travel with on a train journey?
You're taking a risk. Who is the most obnoxious person to travel with on a train journey?
A man from a fried fish shop who's just going home.
Ted Ray.
I would say, quite quick answer to this, two people I object to very strongly. I am one of those people, not the one I object to strongly, but I am one of those people who like to be left alone in a train. I like to enjoy my paper, do my crossword, read my book. Anyone except a person who is physically dirty, this I cannot stand, or who is a chatterer.
Personally, the most obnoxious person to travel with, for anybody else, would be me. I am frightful on a train. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, because I'm either like Ted, behind a newspaper and very grumpy, or I'm so garrulous and what's that other word? I'm so gregarious.
Greedy.
So gregarious that I bind everybody rigid talking to them.
Cardew Robinson.
There are two objectionable types in my life. That's the garrulous person who wants to talk when I want to read, and the unsociable person who looks into a book when I want to talk.
There you are.
Mr. Woolacott, who do you like or who do you dislike travelling with yourself?
Travelled up from Devon this morning, and at Taunton, those two girls got into a very short skirt, and I couldn't view the scenery all the way up afterwards.
Just because they were sitting on the luggage rack, I mean.
Heavens above.
Mr. Woolacott, you haven't told... Are you objecting to that?
Yes, I'm an...
When you get to his age, you'll object to it as well.
I'm an agriculturalist. I want to see how the other farmers are doing.
I would never have guessed you were a farmer, Mr. Woolacott.
You wouldn't?
No.
Yes, I would, by his furrowed brow.
No, just because he's sitting there with a white forehead and a thumbstick in his hand, you never... No, what have you come up to London for then, Mr. Woolacott? Because
Ask you this question.
Oh.
I once travelled in the train with a farmer. He got in with his goat. This is true. And halfway along the journey, he took out some sandwiches, terrible, horrible onion sandwiches. It was ghastly. So I took my pipe out and he said, "Excuse me, no smoking."
Cardew, is that true?
No, but I thought you'd get a laugh.
You were wrong both times, weren't you?
I had an experience in Manchester.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes. She told me about it. I remember.
No, there wasn't a woman involved, actually.
Not the landlady?
No. I got to the station, you see, and I had a little time to wait, so I thought I'd go into the refreshment room and have a ham sandwich and a cup of tea.
Why, was it Lent?
No, I wasn't feeling... Yes, but I can get it back. I wasn't feeling very well, actually, so I thought I'd have a little sandwich. And so I put my bag in the corner, you see.
Did she object?
You can't win, can you?
Try,
This was a portmanteau.
One of those Portuguese women.
Anyway, I put this bag on the thing, and I thought, well, that's all right. So about 20 minutes, I went along, I had my sandwich. Very nice sandwich it was, with mustard and everything. And then...
Curled up
How
edges.
comes you went to the station 20 minutes early? Didn't you have any lodgings?
Well, no, as a matter of fact, Tommy, I had to leave my hotel because at 12 o'clock, you know, you've got to vacate the room. Otherwise, they change the sheets. I came back, and there's a little fat fella sitting on my seat, and all the other seats are full. So I said, pardon me. He said, aye, what have you done? I said, excuse me, you don't get the point. He said, what's the matter? I said, well, this bag on the rack, I said, I put it down in the corner. So that's my seat. He said, aye? He said, where do you come from? I said, well, it has nothing to do with it. I said, as a matter of fact, at the moment, I'm living in London. He said, aye. He said, well, you're in Manchester now. He said, and up here, it's your backside that counts, not your bag.
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you, Mr. Bob Woolacott. Thank you very much indeed. And the next question comes from Mrs. Queenie Woolacott. Mrs. Woolacott, what's your question, please?
If the members of the team wish to escape undetected from this country, what disguise would each assume, and where would they try to escape to?
If the members of the team wish to escape undetected from this country, what disguise would each assume, and where would they try to escape to?
Mrs. Woolacott, you try and think of a friend who is the same age as yourself, who's never had a passport. You get his birth certificate for £1. You then go to a doctor with your friend's name, whose birth certificate you hold. He treats you as a patient under that name. Then you ask him to certify a photograph that you are the person whose identity you're about to assume. You go to the passport office and you get a passport in your friend's name with your photograph, so you leave the country under an entirely different name with a perfectly legitimate passport.
So this is the way you got back to England?
That's it.
Jimmy, how would you do all this?
Well, I'd stick on a very big moustache and go out as Jimmy Edwards.
And what's more, they'd let him go, but they'd never let him back.
Does he take it off again?
I don't see. It is a grave problem, actually.
Oh, you're going in the coffin, are you?
I mean, there have been many classic escapes all through literature, haven't there? All through plays and things. I mean, dressing up as a woman used to be the thing, but
I'd like to see you try and get away with that.
Mrs. Woolacott, supposing you were somebody frightfully important with a very recognizable face, how would you go about disguising yourself?
Well, I think collect half a dozen of somebody else's children and go out as a nanny.
But it would be very difficult for us to do that, Mrs. Woolacott, for reasons which I don't have to outline to you.
Well, not necessarily. Surely you could shave off your moustache, have a nun's outfit, and it was big enough.
And
to
half
have
a dozen children.
Well, you can buy feeding bottles.
Team, have any of you at any time in your careers ever had to escape perhaps from a theatre in disguise? Or had to
You
get...
must be joking. All us four, we get people to come to the stage door of the theatre, not escape.
Well, I saw Noel Coward on the Croisette at Cannes.
Yes.
I saw dear Noel on the Croisette at Cannes.
Come on, Ted Ray.
Yes, I saw Noel Coward, and he was wearing very dark sunglasses, and my wife said to me, "There's Noel Coward." And I said, "Oh, yes." So I went up to him, and I slapped him on the back, and I said, "Hello, Noel, how are you?" And he rather shook him a bit, you know, shaky. He took his glasses off, and he said, "Oh," he said, "hello, Ted." He says, "You know, nobody recognizes me unless I wear these blasted things." And this is true, that sunglasses do not disguise you. I've tried the sunglass lark when you talk about leaving the theatre or leaving a football match, or you want to get away quickly, and you don't really want to be bothered. You don't mind the public. You don't mind signing autographs. But on the occasions that you want to get away quickly, it's the worst thing in the world to put on sunglasses, because it draws immediate attention to your physiognomy.
Quite right. Everybody thinks you've got a hangover, too. Mind you,
gotta hang under.
depends on your physical stature. I'm easy. I'm 6'3" and thin.
Don't
so
boast.
If being 6'3" and thin, if I try to get out of the country, I just go as a very fat midget.
What you want to go down is to the Olympic Games. Let somebody take you as a pole vault.
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you very much, Mrs. Queenie Woolacott. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to introduce our special guest for today, comedian, actor, and scriptwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Sykes. Eric, welcome to the program. Would you dare or care to put your question?
Yes, where is it?
Haven't you got one? Take that.
Everybody's got one.
And now it's time to introduce our special guest.
No, that's my piece, Eric. That's your piece.
If men's magazines, like women's magazines, had someone to advise readers on the... Is this my question?
That's your question.
Brilliantly
If
put.
men's magazines, like women's magazines, had someone to advise readers on their problems, would the members of the team like the job?
No. Goodbye, Eric.
See you then.
Do you mind? Let Eric stay for a little while. If men's magazines, like women's magazines, had someone to advise readers on their problems, would the members of the team like the job?
I think this is a service that's long been overdue.
That's what the bishop said when they were late for Matins.
Now we're back to Euston Station. Actually, there are many men in life who have problems, and they don't know to whom to turn.
I know who to turn to.
Alcoholics Anonymous, you, Jim.
They can't... No.
Come on, Ted Ray, try again.
It's right. I mean, to say, I enjoy reading these columns. They are for the ladies, as Eric says. They are ladies' magazines, and in the daily papers, and these lovely mythical females, who are probably old men with beards, reply and give them advice, and it's usually very good advice. And I think that a lot of men would be a bit shy to ask someone, but would willingly write to a magazine.
Ted, I'll ask you a question. And if I was a woman writing to you and I said, my husband is in the Royal Marines, I'm very worried. They tell me he's a half soldier, half sailor. What can I do?
I'd say you can expect half pay.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, why worry, as long as both halves get leave at the same time.
Well, I don't like to go around knocking up. I don't like to go around knocking off jokes from Eric Sykes and Jimmy Edwards. I would like to give you a hypothetical case of a man asking a question. Supposing I was the editor, I was the chap behind the desk, you see, and helpful Charlie or somebody. And this fellow writes in and he said, I'm in a terrible quandary. What can I do?
Dig yourself out of it.
I would say that is in for a dig to start with. But I would say no, you're in a quandary.
I
He
thought you said you were in a quarry.
A quarry.
Your diction is shocking.
Is it?
Come on, Ted, come on.
Yes, they said, I'm in a quandary. I'm in love, I think I'm in love with two girls. One is very rich and one is very poor. What shall I do? And I would say, marry the rich and be good to the poor.
Let's, Eric Sykes, this question that you posed to the team, has it resulted in your having any concrete thoughts about it yourself?
Oh, yes.
Has
yes.
it? Could you give us some of them?
Well, I haven't really. You caught me with my magazines.
Down. Empty.
What is brown and flat and travels at 40 miles an hour through the water?
Well, nobody's likely to ask.
A dolphin.
Nobody's likely to write that question. What is brown and flat and travels at 40 miles an hour through the water? Nobody's likely to write and ask that sort of question.
A dolphin.
No, go on then. What is brown and flat and travels at 40 miles an hour through the water?
Was that a serious question, Eric Sykes?
No, I just make the questions. They got to answer it.
I thought you might...
How about a chocolate biscuit with an outboard motor?
All right, thank you very much.
I haven't.
I like that. Just a minute. We'll now pause while the entire team writes that down on their little gag book.
I think some of these things are rather facetious. I saw one thing in a column, one of these columns. It said, on a point of etiquette, should chicken be eaten with the fingers? And the reply was, no, the fingers should be eaten separately.
Thank you, team, very much, and thank you, Eric Sykes.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear a question from Miss Jean Murphy. Hello, Miss Murphy. What's your question, please?
Which cartoon or comic strip character would members of the team like to identify with themselves?
Which cartoon or comic strip character would members of the team like to identify with themselves?
I think Popeye for me, because not only have I got the voice, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I've got that, you see? And I've got a body to go with it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, a body that pops.
Jimmy Edwards.
I can't answer this question because I don't read comic strips or magazines that contain them. I'm sorry, but I don't like, when I buy a newspaper, it's not the first thing that I turn to see what these ridiculous things are happening, so I can't answer the question.
Well, it has been said very unkindly. Every time I take my clothes off, it's a comic strip.
Yes, that's right. The last time we went to the doctor, he said, don't fool around, go home and bring the body.
Miss Murphy, do you read comic strips?
No, I don't. I'm very, very glad to hear the team's views. And I gather they're not enthusiastic about...
Oh, I am. Don't put me in that, Miss
comic
Murphy.
strips.
I'll let you undertake her.
Well, Jimmy Edwards, your leader, doesn't seem to think so.
Our leader? He only thought of this. He's not our leader. We help him out with an idea.
You ought to see where he leads us, into the nearest boozer.
Oh, don't say boozer, say bazaar.
And we follow him.
Miss Murphy, I believe you have another question to put to the team, haven't you, or a subsidiary one?
Yes, I'd like to know if any of you have serious journalistic ambitions, as you're so flippant about...
Oh, yes, I'd like
Now, not from a cartoon point of view, but journalism, I find today, modern newspapers...
Modern newspapers?
Well, the sports writers for a start.
They're ignorant, aren't they? They're ignorant.
Well, they write about things they don't know anything about.
Of course they do.
Well...
They don't know nothing about them.
No, let Jimmy do his audition for My Fair Lady. He's going to play Doolittle on tour.
Thank you very much, team, and thank you, Jean Murphy. Thank you very much indeed. And now we welcome Mrs. Winifred Curtis. Hello, Mrs. Curtis. And what's your question, please?
If the members of the team were asked to organise a children's party, what games would they suggest to keep the party going?
If members of the teams were asked to organise a children's party, what games would they suggest to keep the party going?
Well, it wouldn't be my objective to keep it going. I'd want to finish it as quickly as possible. So I'd have one of those competitions to see how quickly you could drink a pint of gin.
Cardew Robinson.
Well, it's very difficult these days. If you say to the modern child, would you like to play Oranges and Lemons? And they'd probably say, well, if it amuses you. But the last time I went into one of my daughter's party, they said to me, we're having a wonderful game. We're playing elephants at the zoo. Will you help us? And I said, well, what shall I do? They said, you can be the nice, kind old man who gives us all cream buns.
Thought you were going to say they said you could be the trunk.
I would if I'd have thought of it, yes.
Well, as a matter of fact, where I came from in Liverpool, we were very poor when we were children.
Oh, here we go. Pass the hat round.
Do you know they only had 3 guitars in Ted's family in Liverpool?
And mine was electric, and my daddy used to let me play with it in the bath.
That made a change.
No, I was so poor that at Christmas time, when the snow was on the ground, I didn't have a sledge. I used to slide down the hill on my brother.
And his father went out one day and shot Father Christmas.
He was what was called the dumb chum with the numb. You know what I'm talking about. I must say, I revel in these pictures that Ted occasionally paints for us of his childhood. This ghastly background that you've come from. How you've improved
I didn't have a
yourself.
father or mother. The neighbours had me. We were so poor. My mother had me, and then she went to the hospital. When children sometimes get obstreperous and start to fight...
Oh, that's a start.
Well, they do, don't they? They do. There's a very good game which you can restore harmony. It's called Kith and Kin. The first kid goes up to the other one and says, "Can I kiss you?" And he says, "Yes, you can."
In Tommy's neighbourhood, they have a stand-up game where the kids get up and try and name their father. I know.
We've got less fathers in our neighbourhood than any other in
But there used to be one, which I remember being forced to play as a child, as usual, hating it all, where there was a picture of a donkey on a cardboard or something, and you had to walk in and blindfold and try and stick the tail on where it should be. And they put a blooming bowl of Vaseline in your finger or something, and it was all most repulsive.
We couldn't afford Vaseline. We had to use gearbox oil we used.
And that's what they used for cooking.
Gearbox oil, yeah. There's another nice little game. I heard about a lady came home one day and she left the kids to their own devices, and she came in about tea time. She said, "Well, have you been good children?" I said, "Yes, Mummy, marvellous, marvellous." "What have you been doing?" She said, "We've been playing post office." "Oh," she said, "lovely. What did you do?" She said, "Well, we went upstairs into your dressing table and found a great big bundle of envelopes all tied up in blue ribbon, and we went and pushed them through all the letterboxes down the road."
I know a little boy went to a party. When he came back very early from this party. And the fellow said, "Why have you come back so early?" He said, "We had to. Mrs. Smith went and shot herself."
That's a nice, sympathetic story. But you know, I did once give a children's party. It was in Johannesburg, actually, but the idea was we would give a party for kids in this club that I was working. And they got 400 kids or something. And I thought, how amusing it would be. I'm going to do my trombone act, which they'll love, of course.
Push a few kids out of the doorway.
And Has the RSPCC heard about you?
And we've got a lot of these comic musical instruments that kids can get, you know, in shops. And we thought, well, I will teach them to play with me. And we issued these instruments at the start of the party. And that was the end. I never got a word in for another hour and a half.
And that, I'm sorry to say, brings us to the end of this edition of Does the Team Think? We'd like to thank all those who asked the questions, particularly our special guest, Eric Sykes. And, of course, our team of thinkers, Cardew Robinson, Tommy Trinder, Ted Ray, and Professor Jimmy Edwards. And now, this is McDonald Hobley saying goodbye to you all. Goodbye.
Does the Team Think was presented by the BBC.